Yes, can we please call the roll at 4:02?
Birmingham, Hintz, I see Mr. Hintz is there. Maybe we'll come back to him. Stam,
Here.
Lasky, Ponick,
Here.
Belter,
Here.
Palmieri.
Here.
Excellent.
And Ms. Nyforth, I am going to ask you a favor, as I am not able to bring up the agenda right at the moment. If you could read off the items as we go along, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Approve the minutes and closed session minutes from July 7th of 2021.
I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on the minutes or corrections? All right, please call the roll.
Hintz? Oh. Okay. Stam,
Aye.
Ponick,
Here. Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 2114, approve option to purchase a portion of the vacant properties located at the 100 block West 6th Ave, SJPK LLC for $9,000. And what I can do is I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint to show you. For some of you that weren't here, gosh, it's probably almost a month ago now, we did have a two different
presentations, right?
Yes, yep, we had two different citizens, developers that expressed an interest in purchasing some RDA property along 6th Ave, along the 100 block there. And the RDA had acquired that. It's been a while ago, and we had 4 different parcels there that we did combine into one. So at the last meeting, the 2 different developers discussed and presented their proposals. And the conversation that we did actually have, working with the developers, we were able to have the meet one of the requests of the RDA members to actually have them both work together and be able to do both of their projects with using the same amount, using the existing parcel, but they're still able to use both of their do both of their projects. So what I'm going to just share here is the sites.
Yeah, so if I could get a motion and a second so we can get this on the floor for discussion.
I'll move it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right. All right, go ahead with discussion, Kelly.
Sure. So as you see on the PowerPoint here, it is located in the between Nebraska and Oregon, and the current option to purchase here is they are looking at just buying a small portion of it. So I'm going to pass this actually over to Sean in our office, because he has been working with both developers, and he can give you a little bit more information about how they're going to make this work for both of them, and then the plans for the other developers. So Sean, do you want to take it away? Oh, excuse me.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Okay, so from the materials that we received originally, the map is slightly different. It is. Okay,
Yeah.
So that's why the
Yep,
price is different.
Yep. So this you could see on the screen is the correct one. The map was, yeah. So what you see on the screen here, that's the correct configuration of what this person would like to purchase.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Redevelopment Authority members here. So there was 2 competing at the time, I guess, developers that proposed at the July meeting, And in talking, I should give both of those developers credit for talking to one another after the meeting, and then our office has worked with them since, and we've been able to find a way to accommodate both of those projects. I think they're both good projects that are some highest and best uses of this property down in that portion of the central city in Oshkosh. Both of them scaled back their original proposals a little bit from what you initially received in July. And that's why these proposals, as you have them in your packet for this meeting, are slightly different from before. This particular proposal from SJPK is they were looking for half of the property previously. They are now believe that they can accommodate what they're looking to do with a quarter of that parcel. There's 200 feet of frontage there on the 100 block of 6th Avenue. They're going to take just the most westerly 50 feet of that parcel for a quarter of the price, which is $9,000 of the city's $36,000 asking price. They're looking to develop a nice garage structure for the apartments that are going to be associated with the upstairs of their 600 South Oregon Street redevelopment project, as well as some additional parking for the first level commercial that's associated with that project. This will leave over that remainder of the parcel, which the other developer, which was Acquire LLC, is looking to. They've scaled back from 5 townhouse units to a 4 townhouse unit development. It's about $1 million project. He'll be selling those as a owner-occupied properties, and he'll be able to fit that modified proposal into the 150 feet of space that remains there. The only reason he was not on the agenda for this meeting, there were some details to be worked out with the storm and water and sanitary connections that are there with the property and some of the costs he's had, and he just wanted to reevaluate some of the numbers, and he intends to come back in September with a modified proposal as well, with a different asking price than the previous price for the entire property. But this particular item here is just for the that westerly quarter of the property for SJPK LLC.
And Sean, is this just for the parking, correct?
Parking, and they're going to be building a garage structure that will be providing, and that will have to go through plan commission approvals, but that'll be providing parking for the tenants of the upscale living units that are going to be on the second floor of the adjacent 600 Oregon Street building.
Okay, so the second diagram, which shows parking and the garages, is correct.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
So Sean, if I may, question is whether or not then this would come back with a final plan that shows the rest of the parcel in the combination project?
You're talking about the easterly portion of the parcel?
Yeah.
Yes, that'll come back as a separate measure to pass, a separate resolution with a separate developer. And Kelly, maybe you can offer some more input if we would need to have a development agreement there with that developer, depending upon the sale price of the property. But
yeah, I don't at this point, we'll wait and see what he comes back with, and then we can perhaps show both developments together on the site, with both the parking and then the townhomes, and show the RDA what that would look like also.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on this item?
Just for a point of reference, can you tell me a landmark that I can get my bearings?
Sure. Just to the north west is like the Morgan District. To the north is Dockside and Sweetwater Marina.
That's what I
here. Yep,
Okay.
River's up there. Yeah.
All right, if there's no further discussion, please call the roll.
Hints. Stam,
Aye.
Ponick,
Aye.
Felter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye. And I do have this agenda pulled up. I figured out how to minimize and maximize on my phone, so I'm reading tiny.
Okay.
Next item then is 21-115, approve offer to purchase 1614 Spruce Street, Logan Smith for $15,300. We can
move
have a
approval.
motion and a second. Thank
I'll move
you.
approval.
All right, any discussion?
I just have a quick question. It said in the letter that they may also do something, that he wants it for additional, adjacent to his property, correct? And that he may turn it into a business? Did I read that?
Sean, I'll let
Well,
you.
Different one.
Yeah, I don't recall that was mentioned. I believe the purchaser is online with us here too, if we would like to ask any questions of him, but.
Oh, I'm sorry, it did say a possible residential development in the future. So it would be add on to his property with the potential for residential development in the future.
I
But if he's
don't see
online, I'd be
anybody.
happy to.
I'm sorry, is there someone online? I don't see it in the list. Mr. Smith?
Is there, there's a Logan, is Mr. Smith, are you?
Oh, yes. I see a chat coming in that he's there. Is your audio working, Mr. Smith? No. Okay. So it sounds like the RDA members have a question regarding whether or not there's an intended business at this location.
Actually, Lori, I'm sorry, it did say possible residential development,
Right.
not business
Okay.
development.
Okay, very good then. Is your question satisfied, Sue?
Unless we have to approve residential expansion, then yes, but if we have to approve that, then I guess I still have some questions about what the next step would be. If he purchases the property and decides to turn it into more residential, there's no issue with us, correct?
As long as it meets current zoning code. So he would have to go through the approval process through zoning.
Right, but that wouldn't fall in our wheelhouse. That would be somebody else's.
No, once you would sell the property, then the city staff would take over with those approvals.
Okay, then I don't have a question.
All right, so today we are voting on selling the property to Mr. Smith, Logan Smith. Is there any further discussion before we take the roll? All right, please call it.
Hints. Stam,
Aye.
Ponick,
Aye.
Felter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, then. We are now at item 5, Jefferson Street parcels update. And I will say that I requested this be placed on the agenda. We should have a motion and a second to discuss the update.
Is there an actionable event?
I don't believe there's an action item. I thought it was just staff providing an update.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm thinking ahead about a review of the a future agenda item. Excuse me. No rush needed. So the reason I asked that this be placed on the agenda for an update, these parcels have been assembled and been sitting vacant for quite a few years. And there have been a couple of potential proposals after the RFP, but they have fallen into a blighted condition. and some of you may recall that there were temporary gardens at one point that were asked to leave after several years because it was intended for development later. And so I guess I just wanted to hear from staff, you know, besides mowing, is there any intention of clearing up some of the, you know, we ask our residents and our businesses to take care of their properties. So I feel like we also have an obligation to do as we say. And I guess I'd just like to know if there are any further proposals that are being considered.
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about that. We have, as Chairperson Palmieri said, we did send an RFP out probably about 2-3 years ago. We had some leads on it, but none of those came forward for completion. Since then, city staff continually talks to different developers that are interested in the parcels. And if you remember last year or earlier this year, we acquired 668 North Main, as we're still continuing to land bank and in conversation with some of those other owners that it's on land that's adjacent to the property. So we do continue to market it for redevelopment. And right now, city staff, I just talked to a few staff members before this meeting, and I think we have 2 different developers we're talking about specifically on these parcels. But as far as your question about the, you know, cleaning up the property with the trees and everything, if that is something that RDA would like to do, typically when we acquire and we demolish homes, we leave the trees on site, but we take, you know, obviously we mow and, you know, do snow removal and everything. But if it is something that RDA would like to see, we could certainly look at doing, trying to find a landscaper that could do some maintenance with some of the trees and shrubs.
Ms. Nyforth, no, I wasn't referring to trees. I was referring to broken down fences and partial structures, metal cabling and posts that are somewhat concerning safety wise. You know, overgrowth of weeds and such. And I don't know where the property line ends up against the old Burger Main Street resale, but you know, those are some concerns. And given that the neighborhood plan, which I'm hoping we'll see a review and update and evaluation of at our future agenda, is dated 2006 that relates to this. You know, we're talking about 14 years. And so I guess I'd just kind of like to know from other RDA members, you know, what we'd like to see as a group and expectation going forward.
This is Sue. This was the same property that we were trying to purchase another parcel so that we would have more access to the land. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that never materialized, but we do have 668, but that isn't sufficient. Is it for the developer who was interested in the property at the time?
No, I mean, it's sufficient for access, you know, to the site from Main Street, but you wouldn't be able to really construct anything on it. But we still are in conversations with the owner of 664 North Main. And then there's one owner that owns all the parcels to the south and to the newly approved gas station. But as far as Chairperson Palmieri, with your comments about the weeds and fences and cables, we'll definitely get out there and just see if any of those are on our property, and we will make sure that they are cleaned up. Because you are right, we need to make sure that we're maintaining our site to the same standards that we, you know, following code and everything that the citizens do. So we will address that and see if there is anything on our property to take care of.
Yes, and then I guess my request would be that, you know, we do look back as this body is charged with the implementation role or part of the implementation role of that neighborhood plan that involves these parcels, that we put that on the next agenda for a review and evaluation for discussion as it relates to that 14-year-old plan.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions or concerns about the Jefferson Street parcels?
My only comment would be, why were the gardens taken away so quickly? I would thought we'd wait until we had a solid proposal before the gardens were taken away.
Yes, yes, and it's my recollection because I was part of that group that was working with the neighbors over there, and I gave a tour to the city council at that time of the gardens and how successful they were at building social capital and feeding folks. So there were like 52 raised beds and over 100 people impacted. And after 3 years, they were doing quite well. But it's my understanding that a response to that RFP in the affirmative fell through in they were not able to make that work. And the option just faltered and sat for several years. And by then the group had been disbanded and moved off. So it was unfortunate.
And it is something that, I think earlier this year we had the RFP out for the community gardens, and we talked with a lot of other communities and community garden groups and municipalities where, they might use city RDA owned land for community gardens. And one thing we did hear from them is sometimes it is difficult if you want to eventually sell the property, and it's hard for the community garden groups to come on and invest a lot of time, sweat equity into these properties that they don't know if eventually they're going to be sold next year. So that's where we struggle, because in the meantime, it would be wonderful to have the community gardens there. But if, one of the two developers that we're working on, if they decide to move forward, then they'd have to leave the site. So that's the struggle that we try to deal with, to try to balance those. And I don't know if RDA members have any insight or, any ideas of how to do that, but that's kind of the dilemma that we're facing.
Well, and given the deficiency of park space in the central city and in the comprehensive outdoor recreation plan that's over 10 years been identified, and some of the newly formed or within the last year neighborhood associations adjacent to that, that's why I'm asking if we can review and evaluate that old neighborhood plan, which was a top-down plan from 2006, in consideration of these parcels and the length of time that they've sat undeveloped. I mean, this is not new news to anybody.
Yeah, we can certainly put that 2006 neighborhood plan on the next agenda on September 15th.
All right, thank you. Let's see here. Our next item then is the executive director's report.
Yes, we have, I'm just going to stop sharing this for a minute. It's largely the same as from the last meeting, but just the kind of an overview of some of the projects and things going on in the neighborhoods. The Rock the Block for 2022 has selected Midtown, which is exciting. That's a very successful project and initiative that we have, a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, Greater Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods in the city. And then another thing you might notice that city staff is working on trying to promote the RDA owned properties and try to sell them. So we've been putting a lot of signs out, and I think Sean was the property that we just approved to sell on Spruce Street. Was there a sign on that? And is that as a result of that, or was that just from before? Oop, I think you're on.
Yeah, no, yes, I think it was the very next day after
Okay.
we put that sign up on that particular property. But we have received quite a bit of phone calls on various properties throughout the community since those signs went up in July.
Yeah, so and that is a goal. Oh, go
Hey,
ahead.
that's like fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a goal. We want to get those properties back on the tax roll if it's an infill development or maybe making a yard larger or something just to enhance that neighborhood. We're happy to do that. So we'll continue to promote those properties. And then I just have a few updates on the South Shore redevelopment area. Pioneer Island, we're still working with Mr. Dumke and you know any potential buyers or developers he has. And the Miles Kimball building, they are getting their final approvals to start rehabbing that building. So we're really excited to see that come online. And then as it relates to the 43 East 7th option that the RDA approved, we are working with engineering to work on the plans for the 9th Ave extension to Pioneer. So we'll have a lot going on in the Sawdust District in 2022, which is really exciting. Something that should be starting this fall is actually the Pioneer Drive Riverwalk. We just opened bids this week and the bids were pretty good. So they'll be starting that work in the fall, and it'll probably do fall a little bit into spring of 2022, but we are excited to have that Riverwalk along the Pioneer Drive come forward for construction. The Boat Works property, we've been actually talking to a few developers about that. So we're actually hoping at the next meeting, we might have something coming forward for you to consider. And then the South Main Street on the west side between 7th and 8th, Mr. Andy Dumke is still interested in that. And we've been having conversations about moving forward with that project also. And then of course, the 43 East 7th redevelopment area. City staff is working with T-Wall Enterprises, and we're working on a purchase agreement. We just had a green team meeting with the DNR to talk about remediation for the site. So we're starting down the road of due diligence and getting everything ready for them to start their site design. So lots of exciting stuff going on in the South Shore redevelopment area. Any questions about anything going on in South Shore or the Sawdust District?
Kelly, on that Pioneer Drive Riverwalk, are we taking the existing road out and replacing it with a Riverwalk like we have in front of Oshkosh Corp along the river?
Exactly, we are. Yeah,
So we'll be demoing that whole strip of blacktop down to the railroad track.
We are. And then some of the guardrail along the side too. So we are looking at putting out some kind of fishing bump outs to really enhance the area, to allow for some areas to go fishing and some benches and bollards. So it's going to look really nice.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess just on a side note, I did request funding for the recommended CIP to start the design for the rest of the Pioneer Riverwalk. So that's going north to south now and going down to the breakwater. So we want to continue that Riverwalk development down Pioneer to that bottom or to that south breakwater. So it'll be really exciting to see that continue to go.
Kelly,
Kelly,
did you have any feedback from the decision to go with T-Wall or any of the other, or not go with any of the other developers on that property?
Yeah, we talked with all the developers, and nobody really had any questions of why they were chosen, why they weren't chosen. But I think that they all, the big thing that we want to do there is continue those relationships, especially some of those developers that are new to Oshkosh, and continue those relationships to try to encourage them to develop elsewhere. So that's what we're actually working on right now, to see if there's anywhere else that they would be interested in locating in the city.
All right, very good. And then it looks like do we have any other business?
The only other no other business. The one thing I did want to mention is right now, if you're not aware, the city is requiring masks in our city facilities. So looking ahead to our September 15th meeting, if we would meet in person, you would have to wear masks here at City Hall. There is an option if you would like to do a virtual meeting. we are able to do that, but I would just need guidance from the RDA on how you would like to proceed for the September meeting.
And I'll just add to that, for Tuesday night's agenda, the city council will be taking up on the agenda, going forward for boards and commissions and for the council itself, whether or not we will continue in person or go back to virtual for a period of time, or a hybrid model, as many other entities are, considering. And I will point out that actually the League of Wisconsin Municipalities that sponsored this conference, I'm down in Fond du Lac at today. They have a monthly magazine, and there was an article by Kurt Watinsky giving a recommendation that cities do have policies. Certainly, whether you have a preference for one or the other, we need to be mindful that this is a fluid situation. And I'm grateful that our city manager, is being somewhat flexible on the, the city buildings and hosting us, of course. So I just thought I would add that in.
Okay.
So
So
Kelly,
yeah, that was just, oh, go ahead.
excuse me, what was the date of our next meeting? September what?
September 15th.
Okay.
It's our regularly scheduled meeting.
Right.
We're off schedule a little bit here, but Wednesday, September 15th at 4 o'clock.
So do folks have a preference? Oh, I can't hear you, Archie.
I would prefer to meet in person.
Same here. I mean, in person is usually better for interchange and discussion.
Okay.
Unless it
And
was, unless we had a really bad outbreak, or the last thing I heard is that they're expecting it to peak around the 15th. So unless it really got bad, I would say in person. I don't like the in-person and online option because WebEx doesn't work real well that way.
Right.
Well, I suppose for this group, since we are a bit smaller, unless something comes out from the council or the city manager, otherwise, we do at least have the space to distance and mask. Okay, to be continued on that point. Do we have, Mr. Melter, would you read our motion for going into closed session?
Sure. I'll make a motion to go into closed session to discuss the acquisition of 1203 South Main Street and the acquisition of 122 West 9th Avenue pursuant to section 19.85, paragraph 1, paragraph E of the Wisconsin state statutes, where competitive and/or bargaining reasons require a closed session.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, please call the roll.
Vince? I'll keep trying here. Stam?
Aye.
Koenig?
Hi.
Belter?
Here.
Palmieri?
Aye.
All right.